On the bench today for your perusal, a tool that Makita have never made before. This is the new narrow crown stapler from Makita. It is the DST630. In the States, I think that will be, when it eventually comes out, the XTS01. In this part of the world, it just has one mode. In most parts of the world, you'll have a power on button here, which will power on for single fire shots. You know, boom, pull the trigger, boom, pull the trigger, and one for bump fire as well. These are the staples it takes, 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters wide roughly, by anywhere in length from 3/8 of an inch or 9.5 mil to 1.5 inches or 38 mil. Now, there's different grades of these, of course. The 18 gauge, as indicated on the tool, that is the thickness of the actual. See if we can get one off here. Ah, damn, we got two. 18 gauge is the thickness of the legs of the staples. So this is like two 18 gauge brad nails stuck together with a little loop on the top. Makes it much, much, much stronger than a couple of 18 gauge nails, because you can pull things out through those, pull the timber out over the heads, that sort of stuff. Whereas when you've got that loop holding the timber, much, much harder to pull out. And that is one of the big advantages of using one of these over just a standard brad nail.
Staples, brad nails. Came out fairly easy. Ah, ow, shit. Ah, significantly harder. If I fire 4 brad nails into this and only 2 staples into this, will they be the same? Right, let's see what difference that makes. 4 nails, 2 staples. Alright, 1 nail stayed in the bottom, 3 in the top. You're unlikely to do that with the staples. And staples, yeah, I still think 2 staples is better than 4 nails. Highly scientific test, of course.
Looking at the rest of the tool, we have a magazine, of course. Let's just turn it off in case I end up shooting something. Not that there's anything in it, as you can see. So to load it up, magazine, nice and simple. Push down on the back. Okay. Open her up, shove your staples in like so, push them right in with help, there we go, and boom, you're pretty much ready to go. You've got depth adjustment here. Now what that does, in case you're not aware, let's just take off this Nomar tip here. Comes with 3 of those. It says 1 on the tool, as you can see, if I can get the damn thing off. So 1 already on there, and then 2 more spare ones on the side here. So when you wind this up and down, all it does is physically move. It moves that pin down, so now where your nail comes out of is this bit here, your staple. It is now higher up, so it won't go in as deep. Okay, so if we wind that down, now when we push the tool down, bang, it touches. So the firing tip itself doesn't actually move, it's this actuator that moves, and the firing pin and everything stay in the same place, and this just holds it away from your material or closer to your material, depending on where you have it set. And of course, putting a Nomar tip on will add a little bit. I'm not sure how much this one will add, say at least a millimeter, maybe a couple of millimeters. It'll hold it up further, so you can use those to your advantage for getting the right depth if necessary. Now apart from that, it has a light just here. Actuate that. There we go. It's a long way back. Maybe I'll remember to, I always say I'm going to do it and I always forget, but hopefully I'll remember to test that sometime in the video and see what it looks like. Could do it right now, I suppose. I could just turn all the lights off. Yeah, let's do that. Don't bump over your egg in a can there, Mr. Tools. Did you know that they now put eggs in some Coke? Get more protein. It's quite a good idea. It's pretty good. Egg in a Coke, egg in a Coke, it's an egg in a Coke. Anyway, lights off. Okay. Hopefully I don't knock anything over here in the dark. I don't know how many people go nailing and stapling in the dark, but you can see where the power button is. What happens when we depress the tip? There we go. Like so many nailers with lights on them, I don't know why they really bother, because the firing tip is, well, see, I can't even point to it because it's in the dark. It lights up next to your tool, okay? The firing tip is in the dark over here. The light nowhere near it. Basically, useless. So I don't know why they even bother wasting money on that. Now this is one of many nailers in Makita's new lineup of nailers. I know it's a stapler, but you know, same sort of thing. So the new 16 gauges, have a look up there in the top corner depending on what you're watching this on. If not, have a look down in the description, maybe in the comments. I did the 16 gauge nailers. The framing nailer is of course out. This is the narrow crown stapler, and the 18 gauge one is not too far away as well. So there's going to be a whole new range of nailers, and they seem to be so far a big improvement on previous cordless Makita nailers. As many of you are aware and tell me all the time, they're not the greatest tools in the world. Let me know down below. Makita look at these videos, so let me know down below what other sort of nailers you want. You want a coil nailer, a fencing nailer, concrete nailers, duplex nailers, whatever. Let me know down below. All the ones that they're bringing out so far that you've seen me review and that are coming up are 18 volt LXT tools. Now there will be 40 volt ones coming along shortly, presumably, but we'll just have to wait a little bit longer for those, I'm afraid. Right, let's go actually fire some staples, see how she does. And oh yeah, it's also made in Japan. If you want to know where and when you can get one, not that, take a look down in the description. There might be some links. There probably won't be. This is a very new tool to the market. If you're in the country that I live in, then go have a look at your local retailer, because these will be out today, so go and grab one. If you are in Europe, you might be lucky. There might be some European countries that have got this out now. If you're in the US, sorry, I don't know when it'll be available. Your guess is as good as mine on that one. But no doubt, much later than everywhere else. It's good to see Makita releasing a good range of nailers and staplers. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any 3/8 of an inch 9.5 millimeter staples. Smallest I've got 16 mil. So 16 mil, or what's that, 5/8 of an inch. And then we've got 22 mil, these are 28 mil, and then we've got 32 mil or 1.25 inches. I don't have any 1.5 or 38 mil, unfortunately. Bit of an oversight on my part, I guess. Should have had that ready to go, eh? Anyway, we'll try all of these, just make sure they all go in to the same depth and stuff. Try it on some pine and then some hardwood. Got the tool wound right out, so they probably won't go all the way in. They shouldn't do. This is 22 millimeter. Now you may think, why would you want that? Very handy for certain things. I'll show you one of the things I use narrow crown staplers for shortly, and having them not go all the way in is actually an advantage. But let's wind it all the way in. We've got the Nomad tip on as well, which, like I said, does make these stay out a little bit higher. But anyway, with it wound right in. Ooh, I like that sound. Good positive poof. Those are well and truly in there. They're down by well over a mil. So let's back it back off into the middle somewhere. Just breaking the surface there. So, pretty good so far. Let's take it up. I don't think we need to try every size, do we? Let's just jump straight to the 32 mil. Okay, 32 mil with the tool wound out again. So in theory, if the tool is powerful enough to hammer everything in, these should be the same height as these two here. Okay, so I'll try and do it right next to them. Looks like they've actually gone in a little bit deeper. Maybe I didn't quite have it wound out before. Anyway, let's wind it right in. Those were the first two shots that this tool has ever done, actually, so it was probably warming up, so to speak. While they are going in there good and proper, wind it back a bit. Okay, I'm just going to fire them now until the tool locks out. By lockout, I mean when you get to a certain level of nails, staples left inside these sort of tools, be it 5, 6, 7, 10, the tool will stop. You won't be able to fire those last few nails, and you'll need to put in another clip. It's to help you not end up firing away, thinking you're nailing something, and then you let go of it and it falls to the floor because you've just been firing air. So it's just a little reminder to go, hey, go and grab some more nails, chuck them in. So let's go. Actually, instead of just wasting on this side, why don't we try some hardwood? Okay, 32 mil staples, we're wound right in. Can it do it? Interqueeler. It's pretty hard stuff, this. A little bit of a recoil there, not quite flush. Put my hand on top of the tool. Perfectly flush there. They're just sort of flush or just slightly above. Not too bad for such hard timber. And this is 32 mil thick, this queeler, so it's going into nothing but queeler. Wish I had those 38 mil staples now though. Anyway, let's try the lockout. There we go, we have locked out. I can't fire anymore, but there should still be some staples left. There we go. Let's have a wee count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 staples. So once you get down to 6, you've got to chuck in some more. Don't have to throw these away, you can leave them inside the tool and just chuck in your next strip behind those. This stapler on the left here is one that I've been using in recent times. This is the Makita, and you can see on this one there's a groove in the tip here. Now it didn't come with that, I put that in there. And as you can see, I did a bang up job of getting that right in the center. Absolute cracker. Anyway, I did that because of this. Great for stapling mesh. And when you're stapling mesh, you don't really want to punch it in as hard as you can go, because you'll end up potentially breaking the mesh or damaging it enough that, you know, the galvanizing cracks off, and then you're damaging the integrity of the mesh. Whereas if you can back it off, like we know we can have it so it's sort of just touching, holds it firm, but doesn't damage the mesh. And putting that little groove in the tip, which I haven't done to this one yet, just stops you from accidentally sliding off as you're about to pull the trigger and firing the staple into the timber and missing the mesh altogether. So that is my favorite use for a narrow crown stapler. But yeah, without that groove, it is a bit slower, because you can't just whack through it. That groove just sort of locates perfectly over the mesh. Bang, bang, bang. Anyway, I wonder if this thing fires 18 gauge brad nails. Shall we go check that out? Right, got some 32 millimeter or 1 1/4 inch 18 gauge brad nails here. Can we get them to work? Before we do that, oh, Simon, that's your parcel, your package, your prize that you won over on Patreon. If you want to check out Patreon, up here in the top corner, down in the description, there will be a link. Giveaway stuff, Makita stuff mostly, over on Patreon every month. So go check that out if you're interested in potentially winning some free stuff and seeing these videos earlier. This video is going to be out probably 2 weeks before on Patreon than before any of you see it here on YouTube. And the Patreon version will also have some stuff that's not in this version. For instance, I nearly knocked myself out right at the beginning of recording this video. That'll be in the Patreon version, but it ain't in this version. Okay, let's have a look at jamming before we put these in, because there's a good chance we'll jam something up here. So if it jams, it's a little bit different to clearing than a brad nailer, because the actuation tip is, let me just take the battery off just in case, you know, I don't want the safety police getting upset. People that never use tools that tell you you're using tools wrong, you know the ones. Anyway, the actuation tip here on a brad nailer is behind where the pin fires, whereas on this one it's in front, so the staples are always behind. So if it jams, you can just open it up, open the magazine up. A little bit not great on the light there, there we go, it's so black. And access it from this side. You don't need to open the front up like you would on a brad nailer. You can just clear it, jam a screwdriver in there, ping out your staple, whatever. Now, looking at that area, there is, if we take a close-up look, there is a sort of groove where the brad nails might sit. Now that kind of looks like a good idea at the moment, and looks like it's made to fit these to fire them, but it might actually push them too far forward past the firing mechanism, and it'll fire several at once, and that's a way to make you stop using this as a brad nail. I'm not sure. Let's try it out. Because the magazine is designed for something nice and wide, 1/4 inch, it ain't going to work too well with these. We've got to make sure there's no groove in the top, like inside the magazine, for the heads to slide in. So the only thing is that little groove at the tip there. So let's make sure we get that in there, which isn't the easiest thing in the world. I don't think they want you doing this. Makita will probably be annoyed at me doing this. Okay, if you put it like that, it's probably the easiest way. Slide them in like that in the groove. Not the greatest. No, because they sit forward, they're hitting the tip. If you push it behind that, why are you not going in? Yeah, it's hitting the actuation. It's hitting the driving pin in there, because the pin is designed. Let's see if we can get. If we put it behind the pin, like so, it's not going to go in that groove at all. So who knows where these nails are going to end up? But that's the only way you can do it by the looks. They've deliberately made it like that, I think, which is kind of fair enough, I suppose. It's not going to work very well. I have tried 18 gauge brad nails in other branded, like red ones for instance, narrow crown staplers, and you can do it, but it's a bit hit and miss. You know, you do have a few stuff ups. Whenever you are using a nailer or stapler, always make sure you've got your safety specs on. Right, let's give this a crack. No, it thinks it's empty. They've designed it so you can't do it by the way that that firing pin works and that groove in the front and that. Not going to work. Okay, so I managed to get it to work. So to get them to work, you can't have them in the middle, you can't have them on the back side, you have to have them on this front edge. Put the tool on the Makita side down, slide them in flat, slide them in a bit back from the front so they don't go over the sort of actuation-y pin thing in there. Slide it forward and you should be all good. Now, it's not going to be as good as a dedicated brad nailer, but it seems pretty good. Let's just try a different length nail. Flip her over, shove her in. I think those are 25mm nails. Yeah, all good. So it can be done, and it's actually better than what I've tried on some other tools. So can be done in a push. If you're doing mostly 18 gauge nails though, I'd get a dedicated nailer, because they can, because they're not supported all that well. You can see well, you probably can't see, but as you can see, it broke them inside. They're more likely to bend and go off on funny angles and stuff like that when they're not held in place with a dedicated groove and everything like a dedicated brad nailer would be. And of course, with a dedicated brad nailer, you get longer nails. You know, this can only do up to 38mm, whereas a dedicated one, you might get 50mm, right? So if you want to do long brad nails, you're still going to have to get a different nailer. And like I said earlier, the tip is in a different place, so the actuation tip on a dedicated brad nailer is behind the point here of where the nail comes out, so you can get much closer to edges and corners and stuff. It's much harder to tell where the nail is going to come out. Oh, that just fired out 4. So yeah, see, it's not always the best. Dedicated tools are always much better, because yeah, it's just very hard to tell where your nail's going to end up in comparison. Once you get used to it, not too bad. But yeah. Under here, there's a little cutout, and they've got that on the 16 gauge as well. And I'm guessing it was to put your finger in there to push the fuel gauge, because they've got that on a few tools, so you can get your finger in there and push them because they're on the wrong side of the battery. If we get our finger in there, you've got to have a really small finger or a screwdriver or something to get in there, because my fingers are pretty tiny and I can only just get it. There you go, you can see it. But wow, they could have shaved a bit more out of there. It would have been nice to, if that's what that feature is for. That is the new 18 gauge narrow crown stapler from Makita. Who wants to see it up against